The subject is what is my relation with the universe and the cosmic entity, part 2. The laws of Prakriti punish only actions performed independently or against her wishes. Those incapable of independent action will hence not receive any punishment at her hands. It will thus be seen that except human beings, no living beings experience karmaphala for their actions. Karmaphala has to be experienced for every action, whether a good deed or an evil one. Human beings cannot exist without action, even for a moment, and so they keep on working right up to the moment of their death. This spares no one from experiencing the reactions after death. Only those who work will experience the reactions karmaphala. No one else can be substituted to experience them. How will a dead person whose physical body has been buried or burnt be able to experience the reactions karmaphala? This is what the following paragraphs explain. Unit consciousness, Atma, is immortal. It is always unchanged. In the course of its movement from crude to subtle, unit consciousness is reflected completely in the human body, made of the 5 rudimental factors created by cosmic consciousness, Bhuma Purush. Purush and Prakriti, consciousness and its principle are inseparable, and hence with unit consciousness, Purush taking shelter in the human body is its principle. Prakriti is also there. The presence of Prakriti casts her influence on unit consciousness and provides it with mind. Mind, which is an outcome of unit consciousness and Prakriti, will exist as long as these two, Purush and Prakriti, exist. Unit consciousness and its principle, unit Purusha and Prakriti, are inseparable counterparts of each other. Hence, mind will exist with unit consciousness only. It is in mind only that one gets the feeling of I will also be there. It will thus be seen that the feeling of I also permits the physical body when unit consciousness Atma takes shelter in human body. At the time of unit consciousness leaving the body, Prakriti, which is an inseparable counterpart of unit consciousness, also leaves the body. Mind, which is a creation of Prakriti, will naturally leave the body with her. This results in the death of the physical body. Thus, death does not mean the death of unit consciousness and mind. It only means the death of the physical body. Unit consciousness, Atma, and mind merely leave the physical body which they had earlier adopted as a shelter. This leads to the question of what makes unit consciousness give up the physical body. The unit consciousness could continue its march towards the subtle with the same physical body till it merged finally and completely in the subtlest cosmic consciousness, Bhuma Chaitanya. Human beings' bodies are made of the 5 rudimental factors, which, as we have seen earlier, are metamorphosed crude forms of cosmic consciousness. The 5 rudimental factors are in the sphere of creation where cosmic consciousness marches from subtle to crude. The human physical body also gets formed in this stage according to the designs of Prakriti and obviously has a large number of factors at different stages in their march towards crudeness. There will be some in the stage representing the ethereal factor and some at the stages representing the other factors, aerial, luminous, liquid and solid. Those in ethereal factor have to move on to aerial factor and so on till they become the crudest, which is solid. This is the will of Prakriti, and cosmic consciousness in this creation moves on in this pattern. If this pattern, which is the law of Prakriti, has to be followed, change in the human body is inevitable. And to bring about this change, death is necessary. Assuming that unit consciousness could continue in one body as its shelter till it gets merged in cosmic consciousness, we are faced with the possibility of one body continuing for millions of years, as the chain of actions and reactions may not free the unit consciousness earlier than that. This would result in a total stoppage of the evolution of factors in a body for millions of years, as the chain of actions and reactions may not follow the pattern of creation and laws of Prakriti. According to the nature of Prakriti, the creation has to pass on from subtle to crude, and with the passage of time, in due course, a human being will also have to give up his or her body inevitably. This also shows that the human body is made of innumerable units of the 5 fundamental factors in different stages of creation, which according to the pattern of creation and laws of Prakriti will evolve into innumerable fully reflected unit consciousness with innumerable human bodies as their shelter. Hence, death is inevitable. Everyone will have to give up this physical body. Death only means dissociation of unit consciousness and mind from body. As Prakriti's creation, the mind will always remain with unit consciousness. The individuality of human beings, or the idea of existence, is in their feelings of I, which is a part of mind and always remains with it. We have seen earlier that death is only dissociation of mind from body and not the death of mind. Hence, a human being's individuality and his or her feeling of I will not die. This I will continue to exist with unit consciousness as long as the influence of Prakriti keeps on maintaining the mind. The moment Prakriti ceases to have here influence on unit consciousness and is unable to maintain the existence of mind, this I will also cease to exist. Human beings' individuality and their I will no longer exist, and that will be emancipation, mukti, for them. One works with one's mind and experiences the reactions karma phala also with the mind. It is mind which converts mental action into physical activity with the help of the 10 indriyas, organs, and it is mind alone which experiences the reactions karma phala as pleasure or pain. Death signifies death of the physical body, while the mind merely quits the body. The mind, which performs all actions and bears their consequences, survives to experience the reactions of the action performed up to the very moment of death. The question about the entity that should experience the consequences of actions thus does not arise. Mind is the entity which acts and that does not die. Hence, it alone will have to experience the reactions, karma phala. Mind is subtle and it has to take the help of some crude base, adhar, to be able to perform actions. The crude base, adhar, is the brain of human body, and it is with the help of this base, adhar, that our mind is able to work. Mind and brain are so closely connected that one cannot work without the other. The brain without the mind ceases to function, and similarly, if the mind's base, the brain, is not in proper order, the mind will not be able to work. A dead person's body has a brain, but it does not function because it is dead and there is no mind in it. Similarly, when a person becomes unconscious or is made so with the help of anesthesia, his or her brain becomes non-functional for some time, with the result that the mind also does not work, as its physical base, the brain, is not fit to function. The unconscious state is not the state of death, and so neither unit consciousness nor mind leaves the body. Although in this state mind remains within the body, it does not work due to the brain not being in proper order, and one finds oneself unable to make out anything. It is therefore necessary for mind to take shelter in the brain as its physical base to be able to function and even to experience the reactions, karma phala, of its actions. After death, mind quits the body and also gives up its physical base, the brain. It has, however, been performing some action or other right up to the moment of death and will have to experience the reactions, karma phala, of those actions. In fact, it is in order to experience these reactions and because of its inability to experience these reactions without the brain that the mind has to take shelter in a new body in a subsequent birth. Mind comes into being as a result of the qualifying influence of Prakriti over unit consciousness, and since unit consciousness and its principle Prakriti are inseparable, the unit consciousness also takes shelter in a new body along with the mind. In other words, mind and unit consciousness are both reborn. They have to take another birth to complete the experience of reactions to the actions of a previous life. Thus, it is seen that once one is born, one has to face death, and that rebirth after death is also inescapable. This will continue to alternate as long as the journey of unit consciousness from crude to subtle up to the final merger with cosmic consciousness does not end. Unit consciousness may have to continue this journey for an infinite period, and it will have to keep on taking shelter in new bodies after discarding the old ones. After death, the mind is incapable of any action due to the lack of its physical base, the brain, and has to be reborn for experiencing reactions of its previous actions. Hence, the concept of hell or heaven, where human beings are supposed to proceed after death, is entirely incorrect. It is believed that one experiences all the pleasures in heaven as a result of one's good deeds, and pain in hell for one's evil deeds, but pleasure and pain cannot be experienced by the mind, which in the state after death is a non-functional unit until it acquires a new brain at the time of rebirth. Conception of a world of heaven or hell after death is greatly mistaken fantasy. There is no other world where heaven and hell exist. It is in this mortal body only that one has to be reborn to experience the pleasures of heaven and the suffering of hell. Rebirth also shows that there are no such things as spirits or souls that becomes ghost, pretatma. If rebirth has been rationally accepted, the question of the existence of ghost does not arise. It is due to mind's incapacity to work and experience reaction that it has to be reborn along with unit consciousness. This shows that mind cannot experience any reaction till it is reborn after death, and hence cannot feel pleasure and pain without its physical base, the brain. Either rebirth or the existence of ghosts can be accepted, not both together. As the two are contradictory, rationally rebirth is bound to occur, as the mind is not able to perform any function or experience results or reaction without a brain, which it can only acquire with a new body or rebirth. If mind could function without a brain, it could carry on institutional practice for the onward march towards the merger with cosmic consciousness in its existence after death, but that is not so. Mind can never function without a brain. It is because of this characteristic dharma of mind that rebirth has to be accepted and the existence of ghost denied and considered only imaginary. Since at death unit consciousness and mind leave their physical shelter, mind due to absence of a brain becomes non-functional. While still alive, a human being's mind becomes non-functional in the state of unconsciousness when the brain, the physical base of the mind, ceases to function for some time. The state of unconsciousness and that of death are similar, except that the former is momentary and the mind loses awareness of the environment but does not quit the body. The latter state, that is after death, is of a very much longer duration and the non-functional mind quits the body for good. Consciousness and its principal prakriti are inseparable counterparts. When unit consciousness leaves the physical body, which is a prakriti's creation, mind also leaves the body and takes the shelter of unit consciousness. Mind, even at this stage, is deformed due to the actions performed before death. In order to return to its normal form, mind will have to experience the reactions which human beings feel as pleasure and pain as a result of their deeds. Mind becomes non-functional after death due to the absence of the brain and hence has to stay in the deformed state with all the potentiality of reactions in it. It is in this state of reactions in their potentiality that the mind quits the body and takes the shelter of unit consciousness. These potential reactions are called sanskaras. The deformity of mind acquires due to its actions right up to the moment of death is to be found with unit consciousness as reactions in their potentiality, sanskara, after death. These reactions due to the mind becoming non-functional cannot express themselves as the results of previous actions, karmafal, and hence remain with unit consciousness till it takes shelter in a new body and acquires a brain to make the mind function again. Thus, it is seen that rebirth is only for finding an expression of these potential reactions and for experiencing them as the result of actions. This expression and experiencing of reactions starts from the very moment of birth. Just as the mind gets compressed or changed into potential reactions, sanskara, at the time of death. The example of a rubber ball representing the mind will explain this process clearly. An inch deep depression may be caused in the rubber ball. This depression creates a deformity in the rubber ball. The rubber ball should, according to the law of Prakriti, try to regain its normal form. The case with the mind in its expansions and contractions is similar, but due to death, regaining the normal stage is not possible, as no actions can be performed after death. The mind will only be able to fulfill its desire to regain its normal form on rebirth. When a new brain is acquired, the reaction should have made the mind regain its normal form, but due to death, it remains incomplete and takes the shelter of unit consciousness at the time of death as a potential force or energy, sanskara. It is to complete this reaction that the unit consciousness takes the shelter of new body at the time of rebirth, and the potential reaction sanskara or force gets expressed and makes the mind reappear with the depression affected in the previous life. Action, whether good or bad, causes deformity in the mind and in the process of regaining its normal form, one experiences as reactions good results for good deeds and bad results for bad ones. After death, mind takes the shelter of unit consciousness as reaction in its potentiality, sanskara. The unit consciousness, in order to have those potential reactions expressed, will have to seek a body suitable for the expression of these reactions. For instance, Ram dies and his mind takes the shelter of his unit consciousness, Atma, as reactions in their potentiality, sanskara. Ram, according to his reactions in this life, should experience a reaction, karma, the pain equivalent in mental measure to a fracture of an arm at the age of 8, the happiness of getting a fortune at the age of 10, and the suffering of becoming fatherless at the age of 11. He will have to experience all this as his deformed mind regains its normal form. It is important to clarify here that the actual form of suffering is not predetermined. It cannot be said what might be the actual reaction of a particular action. For example, it is not preordained that if one commits theft, his things of the same value will be stolen as a result. The suffering is measured in terms of mental suffering to the extent which was inflicted on others by stealing their property. Thus, the measure of experiencing the result of an action is mental and is in terms of pleasure and pain, and the actual form of experience has relatively no importance. Ram has to experience the pain and pleasure of all these happening. And so, his unit consciousness will have to seek a body on rebirth, where an opportunity to experience all this will be available. In order to suffer the mental agony of loss of his father at the age of 11 years, Rama has to be born of parents where the father, according to his own actions, has also to die when Rama attains that age. If it is not so, Rama will not be able to experience his reaction, karma, of the suffering of the loss of his father. Thus, it is seen that unit consciousness and the potential reaction sanskara cannot take shelter in any body for rebirth indiscriminately. A suitable body where the opportunity and field for experiencing their reactions, karma, is available will have to be sought out. It is only in such a body that unit consciousness, along with total reactions in their potentiality, will seek shelter and be reborn. Unit consciousness and the potential reactions, sanskara, have to seek a body for their shelter which provides them with a suitable field for experiencing the results of their actions. What is the agency that selects this suitable field for them? Unit consciousness cannot perform any action. It is only a spectator, and mind has taken shelter in it as potential energy or force. As reactions in their potentiality sanskara, and so mind is also non-functional. It has been seen earlier that one has to experience reactions according to the law of Prakriti, and so it is also the responsibility of Prakriti to make us experience the remaining reactions. It is therefore Prakriti under whose law one has to be reborn, and Prakriti that has to find the required field and shelter for the potential reaction sanskara and the unit consciousness. That is why it is said that after death, Prakriti selects the proper field to suit the potential reaction. Such a field may be available in a day, or it may even take millions of years to discover it, for the mind cannot take shelter in a body till a field which suits the requirements of potential reactions is obtained. Hence, it is never possible to say where and when one is to be reborn after death. There may be innumerable worlds where life exists. Unit consciousness and potential reactions may get a suitable field in any of them. Thus, it is not even necessary that one be reborn only on this earth. It is thus clear that those reborn on this earth have a suitable field here alone, and that they have adopted a body only for the purpose of experiencing the reactions of their previous actions. Human beings keep on performing new actions also, while experiencing the reactions of previous actions. This experiencing of the result of previous actions is called the unknown future or fate or drist. One experiences the result of one's actions in a subsequent life and cannot then recollect the actions whose results bring happiness and grief. Because a person's memory is not large enough to remember or know the deeds of their past lives, reactions which humans experience were collected in previous lives, and in present life they cannot make out the cause of such experiences, and hence term these experiences as fate or the unknown future. People often hold Param Purush responsible for calamities that befall them, but in fact they alone are responsible, as the suffering of fate is only reaction of their own previous actions. How can Param Purusha be responsible? Human beings themselves are answerable for their fate, as it is their actions alone which create it. They alone will have to bear the consequences of all their actions. No one else can substitute for them. Their good deeds beget good results, while bad ones beget bad results, and they will have to experience both without any exception. This is the law of Prakriti, and no one can change this law.